The best and worst states to raise your child. Tonight at 9 on Fox News Chicago.
Welcome back. There are thousands of Guinness records that involve pushing the envelope to the limit. But how far can you physically push the human body before you risk serious injury or even death? One man seems determined to find out, even if it kills him.
The biggest thing that separates me from anyone else is a burning desire to succeed and to go through pain thresholds that many other people are not willing to subject themselves to. So it's trying to be the best that you can be, and this is what I'm best at.
This is Steve Sokol, age 42, a professional fitness trainer. He's married and lives in San Jose, California. A lifelong athlete, Steve currently holds over 20 world fitness records, including a previous Guinness record for the most jumping jacks in the shortest amount of time. Now he wants to go where no man has gone before. A muscle-burning, lung-bursting, mind-bending, 24-hour exercise marathon he calls his Endurathon. If he can complete it, it will put him in the Guinness Book as the world's fittest man.
This is my Mount Everest. This is my mountain to climb, my personal challenge.
Steve's personal challenge boils down to this: 15 strenuous endurance events, 55 miles of bicycling, 5 miles of power walking, 20 more miles of bicycling, 5 miles of kayaking, a 10-mile hike followed by 1,000 crunches, 1,000 jumping jacks, 1,000 leg lifts, and 1,000 push-ups. Then he will run for 10 miles on a treadmill, row for 5 more, then do 10 more miles on the Nordic track. And if that's not enough, he must then lift over 50,000 pounds of weights, swim for 2 more miles, then bike for another 25 miles. Not only will Steve be fighting pain, fatigue, and even hallucinations, he'll be fighting the clock. If he doesn't complete all 15 events in 24 hours, none of it counts.
My lower back got tight, but apparently not too tight.
Not just anyone can push their body to the absolute physical limit for a record 24 hours straight. Steve comes prepared.
This event requires a certain type of preparation. That's a combination of training, of motivation, and of genetics, along with proper nutrition. I'm gonna have a breakfast for 4 by myself this morning because the number of calories I'm gonna burn today is as much as 4 active people would burn throughout a whole day.
3, 2, 1, go.
Here we go.
10:08 a.m., Steve begins his Endurathon. His first event, a strenuous 55-mile bike ride over a series of punishing hills.
I'm doing all right. Trying to not get too overheated.
Steve finishes without stopping in 3 hours, 11 minutes.
Well, we can look at that as our appetizer.
Up next, the first course, 5 miles of brisk power walking.
Another few hours, it'll start getting interesting. Right now, we're cruising.
61 minutes later, Steve is back at home.
2 down.
After a little breather, he sets out on his next event.
1, go.
Another bike ride, 20 additional miles. Air temperature, a blistering 96 degrees.
The water's almost too hot to drink. It's very warm. But I need fluid, so right now, beggars can't be choosers.
Between biking and walking, Steve has worked the lower body. Now it's time to do the same for his upper body. The event? Kayaking, 5 miles of it.
Go to sleep tonight. When you wake up tomorrow morning, remember anything's possible. I'm getting edgy.
8 hours into his Endurathon, a typical workday for most, Steve begins the next event, a leg-straining hike over 10 miles of hot, hilly terrain. This after 75 miles on a bike, 5 miles of power walking, and 5 miles of kayaking. It's 2 hours into the hike. After 10 straight hours of non-stop exertion, fatigue really begins to take its toll.
Hallucinations are a funny thing. You never exactly know when they're going to happen. It's much more common to do so at night. I've seen tar spots jumping up off the street and telephone poles kind of caving in on me, and that's called a tunnel vision.
8:49 p.m. Steve finishes his hike, 50 minutes behind schedule. Physically and mentally exhausted, he's not even halfway through the Endurathon. Not only does he have to somehow make up that lost hour, he is still facing 15 more events. 1,000 crunches, 1,000 jumping jacks, 1,000 leg lifts, 1,000 push-ups, a 10-mile run on a treadmill, 5 miles on a rowing machine, 10 more miles on the Nordic track. Then he must lift 50,000 pounds of weights, then swim for 2 miles, then bike for another 25 miles. Can he do it? We'll find out right after this.
Coming up, born with the world's largest tumor at birth, baby Ryan James is a medical miracle. It's a story you'll never forget.
Now let's return to Steve Sokol's attempt to become the Guinness record holder for the world's fittest man. So far, Steve has already finished 5 of the 15 events of his Endurathon. 55 miles of biking, 5 miles of power walking, 20 more miles of biking, 5 miles of kayaking, and a long, strenuous hike over 10 miles of hilly terrain. It's 8:50 p.m. Steve stumbles out of the foothills depleted and fatigued. With 14 hours yet to go, Steve jams down peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and plows into his next group of events. What's he start off with?
1,000 abdominal crunches, go.
Followed by 1,000 jumping jacks. Followed by 1,000 leg lifts. Followed by 1,000 push-ups.
995. 1,000.
Oh, yeah.
12:38 a.m. After 4,000 repetitions, Steve is now 14 hours and 30 minutes into the Endurathon.
It's weird how you can be going along just fine, and then bam.
With his metabolism running at the rate of 4 normal people, he must constantly replenish his body fuel. Still, Steve develops a throbbing migraine headache, the result of fatigue and dehydration. But there's little he can do about it.
So now we move on.
That means 10 long, agonizing miles on the treadmill. To stay on schedule, Steve has to maintain a laborious 10-minute mile. As any marathoner knows, mood swings are common. Right now, Steve's feeling good, but who knows how long it will last.
Right now, this whole thing's a mind game. So if I can play the game right, I win.
Next, 5 taxing miles on the rowing machine.
What did I say before about being crazy to be running at 1 a.m. on a treadmill? How about rowing at 3 a.m.?
An additional 10 miles on the Nordic track, one of the most strenuous exercise machines around.
That migraine headache seems to be spreading throughout my whole body.
The Nordic track proves to be his undoing. Steve does finish his 10 miles, but with his reserves depleted, he hits the wall. He's treading into dangerous territory physically and emotionally. Concerned about Steve's physical and mental state, the on-site paramedic waits outside the dressing room.
How you doing, Steve?
All right.
Okay.
You go into more ultramarathon type things. You go into altered states of consciousness, very extreme highs and lows of emotions, and obviously I'm in a low. part of the roller coaster.
Steve takes a few minutes to pull himself together. But if he hesitates too long, he may not have enough time to finish the last 3 events: weightlifting, swimming, and biking.
It's not a physical pain. It's a mental thing. Yeah, I can't really, I don't even know if it's mental, it's emotional. But at the same time, you know, I think that if you can harness that kind of emotional energy, you can go beyond, you know, what maybe another person might be able to do. So if you don't let your emotions rule you, but you rule them and you use them, you know, both high and low, then you can use it to your advantage and persevere.
And Steve does persevere through his next absolutely grueling event. Lifting 50,000 pounds of weights, muscles burning with fatigue, Steve struggles through repetition after repetition after repetition. Does he do it?
50,160.
Yeah.
Yes.
He does.
Getting light out?
When most gym goers are just thinking about their 20-minute workout, Steve is in the 20th hour of his.
Go.
140 laps, 2 miles. Lap after lap, Steve struggles just to keep his arms above the water. Amazingly, he finishes the 140 laps in 64 minutes. But if he wants that Guinness title, he has to go even further and complete his 15th and last event, a bike ride, a 25-mile bike ride. If Steve wants to finish this final leg of the Endurathon within the allotted time, he has to maintain an average speed of 18 miles per hour. If he lags behind, he will not be able to claim the Guinness record. But Steve manages to break through the wall and go for it. After 75 miles of biking, 5 miles of power walking, kayaking for 5 miles, and 10 miles of hiking, after 1,000 crunches, 1,000 jumping jacks, 1,000 leg lifts, and 1,000 push-ups, beyond the 10 miles on the treadmill, the 5 miles on the rowing machine, and 10 more miles on the Nordic track, after hitting rock bottom, then rebounding to lift 50,000 pounds of weights and struggling through 140 laps, then enduring another bike ride of 25 miles, Steve finally hits the home stretch. He finishes the event in 23 hours and 43 minutes, grabbing the Guinness title as
the world's fittest man. Yes. Woo!
Steve, that is a remarkable achievement. We'll be right back.